Okay, so welcome back. For those of you who watched the previous video, you saw that I was planning to water cool the RTX 3090 Founders Edition. I've got another guy's video up, so I've been just using this as a reference. This is Netfryer on YouTube. So he's done the disassembly already of the 3090 and installed the Corsair block. So I thought I'd just have that as a reference if I get stuck. However, hopefully if you're watching this, you might learn something from me as well. We might find some troubles that we see along the way. Who knows? Hopefully it's all going to go swimmingly, and in about 30 minutes we should have the EK Quantum Vector FE installed. So first thing I remember seeing from previous teardowns, I think I watched Steve from Gamers Nexus, is these little magnetic clips. So I've just taken one of them out. You can probably see that there somewhere. And I used tape, so I'm using duct tape. It took a few tries to get the first one out, so we'll try and get another one out live on camera. I'll show you just how easy they come out. There's another one. It takes the old whipping technique, like when you're taking a plaster off as a kid. So how many is that? 4? Oh, that one doesn't want to come. There we go, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to store those safely in a tray. Superb. What else have we got here? So it's all Torx screws. So these on the end plate, they're T8. Looks like a T4, maybe T3 inside. So make sure you've got the right tools before you proceed to disassemble this, because if you damage anything, you're going to invalidate your warranty, remember, and we don't want that. Because if there's ever an issue, I'm going to put this back together and send it to NVIDIA, because they've said on numerous occasions that they will honour a warranty on a card that has had a water block installed on it, as long as you don't damage anything in the process. So I've got a T4. Yeah, so the ones on the top of the card there are T4. The ones on the end plate are T8. So let's proceed to take this off initially. Okay.
Somehow, maybe I need a spudger. Bobby, are you watching a video on this or something? Like YouTube? I have a bunch of squeeing little kids outside my window. Little tabs. Little tabs. Let's see, tabs.
Okay, so we've got the 6 screws removed from the end plate. That's still held on there somehow. I imagine it's going to be under this plate here and the front bracket. We took the magnetic screw caps off using duct tape, squashed together, and then the whipping action. And we've taken T4 screws out, ×4, from the top plate here. I'm not really sure where to go next, so I'm going to have another reference of the video, and then we'll come back and take the next part.
Plastic. Alright, you're gonna hear me watching Gamers Nexus tell me how to take the damn thing off. Pry from the middle of the X. Thanks, Bibbit. That worked a charm. Thinking about murdering some kids, so if you hear anything, just disregard. Small.
Okay, so the one thing that he struggled with here is getting this X bracket off here. He actually referenced Gamers Nexus, I referenced him, and actually somebody in his chat sent him a message. So they said pry from the middle of the X. So that's what I've done, and it's it's come away, but it hasn't come away fully. So let's try and persuade it off. There we go. So it's come off eventually, quite easily actually. So as you can see, it's one of those configurations where it's got like a little ball on the end of it, so it's designed to push in and grip with relative ease. Making sure we're still in focus. There's nothing worse than recording an entire video and then realising you're out of focus. Right, I need my glasses, back in a sec. Okay, we are back. So we've now exposed some more screws. These are Phillips screws, not posi drive, plain old Phillips. Or depending if you call it something else, you might call it a cross drive. But that would be incorrect in my opinion. So let's have a look. We need the correct fitting for that. That's too big. Let's have a look. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 Phillips screws. I'm using a PH00. Actually, I think these are PH0s, so there's just a tiny bit of play in this screwdriver as I put it and locate it in the screw head. But if we're careful enough, it's still going to remove these screws adequately enough and not slip, because the last thing we want to do is slip, damage a screw head, and then it becomes really obvious that you've taken this apart, therefore potentially voiding the warranty. We don't want to give anybody any excuses to say, hey man, that £1,400 card that you purchased from us, we ain't going to honour the warranty because you took some screws out. I almost swore. I almost promised I wouldn't swear on my videos. Not because I don't like swearing, because I do swear. However, I've got children, and the last thing I want is when they're watching YouTube is for a totally innocent video to all of a sudden drop a big swearing bomb in the middle of it, because then I have to turn it off and then they get upset because they want to watch the video. So we ain't going to swear. Right, I'm going to go back to the video now and see what this dude does.
Ain't no way these screws are going back where they're supposed to go if I decide to undo this. There are, so far, 1, 2, 3, 4 different sizes of screws, 2 different torque head sizes, and these are freaking Phillips. Where's the tweeze?
We are in!
The tweeze.
We're in, sports fans.
Tweeze.
So,
stupid asshole says 4 years when I buy it from you. Dude, I don't keep that for 4 years. What are you talking?
so there's the thermal pads that the NVIDIA ship with. I've had this card pretty hot, I have to say. Like I say, the reason I wanted this water block is because the memory temperatures were baking. I'm not even joking, they were absolutely baking. And I don't know if you remember my last video, but I mentioned about the differences in thermal pad size. Maybe you're going to see that, maybe not, but these ones around what would be the memory chip and the central CPU block of this, the processor of this GPU, they are smaller than the ones around the edges. So that's just something to be aware of if you're going to put a different block on, or actually replace these thermal pads. Now that would be really easy. That's a really easy job to do in my opinion. So people have reported, as I said in my previous video, that to change these thermal pads will drop your temperatures on your VRAM by approximately 10 to 15 degrees. Well worth it in my opinion, because that's taken what, 10 minutes. You can soon pop those out, but make sure you get the different sizes of thermal pads. I have read that these ones in the middle are 1.5mm and these ones around the edges are 2mm. However, to me, natively, they look like 2.5s, or maybe these are 1 and 2. I've read there was 1.5 and 2, but if I was going to replace them myself, I'd try and get 1mm here, 2mm here and here. So something to be aware of. Excellent. So we've seen a PCB. We're going to proceed from here. We've got another T, is that a T8? Looks like a T8 to me. So let's try the T8. It is. So we'll go back to the T8. Take the I/O panel away from the card itself. Excellent. So what do we have now? Without watching the video, if I was going to be a betting man, it's going to be 1, 2, 3 cables to be disconnected. These little ribbon cables, they have the locking device on it which you lift up. It's hard to tell. They could just be pull away. But I'm going to watch the video and see what this guy does.
I'm already eyeballing AMD GPU. Alright. I just need to understand. I don't understand why. Is it some weird plug that I've never seen before? There was specific warning to be careful with this one. Kind of don't want to use metal. Pull back the silver clip. That's a clip. Is that what they did? They pulled back the silver clip?
Yeah, there we go. Well done. So the
Should get zoom with this camera.
okay, so the guys in his comments are actually pretty switched on with this. I'm glad I've watched this video. So let's show this to the camera. So this cable here, you see the little silver thing? So when you see it, it's pushed in like that. So you push the silver clip back and that will release this cable here. So I'm just going to do that again with my thumbnail. I'm just going to do it, wiggle it out, be ever so careful. Okay, that's back. It still doesn't want to come out that. Not super happy right now. Okay, I'm gonna watch it then.
I am not Lewis Rossman, for damn sure. Oh, back to wires first. Ribbon.
Yep, so they are lock-in connectors, as I first imagined. So if you've done any electronics work on any sort of console or phone or anything, you will recognise these. When you see a ribbon cable like this, when you see a ribbon cable like these, here and here, there's a lock-in mechanism, and it's usually just a case of lifting it up. So if I show you here, there's a lock-in mechanism there. We flick it up and it releases the cable, which should pull away nice and easily. There we go. One out, two out. Simple stuff. But make sure you lift those up. When you push them back in, it's just a case of pushing in, locking down to the PCB. Happy days. Okay, so we've still got this black and yellow cable to remove. I've released the slider, I believe. I think that's fully disengaged. We're just trying to get this cable itself out, and I'm not super comfortable at the moment because it doesn't want to release. So I'm going to go back to the guy's video. Let's reference it again.
Making myself cry. This is supposed to slide so that can come straight up. Yeah, I've got, these are super dinky tweezers for like micro soldering. Also for holding my micro wiener while I take a urination. Here's a tweezer in for the PP. And I don't want to wreck that. Why is that not just popping out?
So we're going to go in with, there we go. It really just takes a bit of bravery. So we went underneath the connector. We'd already taken the silver thing away. We pushed that back. We went, use this tiny little, it's a 1.2 millimeter flat blade. So I went straight underneath and lifted, and it just popped out. Quite simple, actually. Yeah, okay, so that's good. That's away. We can proceed with our teardown. If you haven't already got bored by now, I'm probably going to edit this a little bit and make it a little bit more watchable. So we're going to proceed with Steve because his video quality is a little bit better.
Unscrew each of these by about 30 to 50%, and then we'll come back through and get all of them. Here's the leaf spring retention mechanism. Really not looking forward to reassembling this because I've had a hell of a time getting the cards to behave normally after one disassembly and reassembly. They do all work, but it's really not the easiest process. They could have done this in a way that's a lot easier to reassemble. And that's not to say it's mechanically difficult. It's actually pretty simple to reassemble. It's just all the other issues with the thermal pads mostly.
Okay, so we have T6 screws here. So far we've had T8, T4s, and now we're on T6s. And we've also had Phillips and 3 cables. So not a great deal of difference here. Let's just a couple of turns each. Right, so these are spring loaded. Okay. Well, it's not exactly spring loaded, but this this bracket here is shaped in a way that forces itself downwards. So as you release the screws, it pops up like that, which is going to make it slightly awkward to put back together, I think. But it's nothing we can't handle. Right, so what do we have next? PCB, from what I'm seeing now, should be free to leave the rest of the cooler. Just doesn't want to move. Oh, there we go. That's the thermal paste giving way, I imagine. It is indeed. So there we have one RTX 3090 PCB. Wasn't so difficult to get to this stage. Just got to be careful with it. let's pop that down there for now. And again, thermal pads. They seem really, actually, people give these a lot of stick, but these thermal pads seem to be good quality. As far as thermal pads go anyway. The grease that's been used on the actual die, I've seen worse. It looks like it's had nice contact throughout. However, there's a little blank spot right in the middle, which probably would have resulted in a small hot spot on the die. So we shall make a better job of that. But for now, the 3090 cooler, I mean, it's a nice cooler. It is a nice cooler. They've done a good job of it, Nvidia. But it's going. Get rid of that. And now we'll go into big boy time. What the hell is that? There's something sticking up here. What the flipping heck is that?
In there, screws go through that. It's also just a light.
It's a little contact, isn't it?
For the light right there. Let's move all this aside.
Looks like I've dropped something somewhere. There should be a shroud around this, but that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-pin contact.
Really dry.
Yes. So Steve's just mentioning the thermal paste, how dry his is on the die.
It's fairly familiar. If there are differences, we'll talk about it in a separate video in terms of the VRM. But for memory, that's the main difference. Oh, that feels like glue almost. A lot of residue from the thermal pads. So memory is still Micron GDR6X. I think they're the only ones making it right now. It's double-sided. Like you've got 4, 8, and then 12 right there. Set towards the bottom. Typically, this is the hot spot on cards where once it gets close to the slot, you're close to power, and the real problem is that you're below a hot GPU and you're right where the air.
Okay.
Just a guide.
Oh.
Just a guide.
So mine seems to be slightly different to what I'm seeing. That's what Steve's got. I don't know why that is. But anyway, we're not too concerned right now. So on Steve's 3090, you can see around this area, there's like a plastic retainer. I don't know if he's maybe just left this part of the X bracket on, because I didn't watch all of his video clearly. So we are now going to switch to EKWB. And let's watch their video. Is there a video? Is there a video? There probably isn't. Okay, yeah, we've got one. Who's this by? So this is by a guy called JC, and he uploaded this video. He uploaded this video yesterday. So cheers JC, we're doing the same process as you the day after.
Let's take a look.
Let's see if this guy had any issues.
The other two that I've had, the Alpha Cool part, so duct tape. Okay, so when you're taking this out, be careful. There are these little black rubber things. Mine just popped out just now. Let me put this back. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Good news is I managed to preserve most of my pads without messing them up. So file that to the side.
Superb.
Okay. Let me get rid of the
So this guy JC, he made a good point actually, which I didn't notice. So when you take this back plate off, there are two little rubber grommets that just fall away. So one of mine had come out, the other one was in. So make sure you don't lose those and keep them with the back plate for the founders. Oh, that's a shame because it doesn't actually show the block being installed, I don't think.
How efficient that is, I don't know. I don't think that's as efficient as having
Okay, so we're on our own. We are on our own, which is a shame. EKWB. No.
Hey everybody. This
Right, so EKWB have an installation manual on their website. Of course they do. So we're going to follow this step by step now together. So blocks, contents, blah 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 blah. So their thermal pads that EK include are all 1 mil. 1 mil thickness. Right, I'm going to quickly clean this thermal grease. So here we are, that's the dye cleaned off. You can use isopropyl alcohol. I didn't have any of that, so I just use nail polish remover, which my wife has. So that's clean, and let's have a look. Step 1. They have to be cut into smaller pieces to cover all the VRM components such as coils, MOSFETs and drivers. You must remove the protective foil from both sides of the thermal pad before installation. Replacement thermal pads, 10 times 1 mil. Once cut to size, thermal pads should be placed on the PCB as illustrated below. EK makes sure to provide you with more than an adequate quantity of thermal pads to complete this step. Okay, alright, let me get my microphone back on so you can hear me better. So, step 1, step 2. So we've got a lot to cover here. So we've got to cover these, bong, 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 all of these bits, all of those, that, these, this, etc, etc, etc. Let me get a set of scissors. Okay, so one side done. That was super frustrating. Yeah, like I say, it's not the first time I've done that, but for this card in particular, it was quite annoying to complete that. So step 2 is completed. So are we saying we don't have? Surely we must cover the back ones as well. Come on. He says nothing. He says nothing. Alright, so that's later on. Okay. Ignore me. So, thermal compound. Okay, so it's time to disassemble the block itself prior to installation. So next step is to take off this retaining backplate cover. They're a lot longer than I thought they was going to be. That off. So now we have Phillips head screws. Is that going to be too big? No, perfect. Okay, 4 screws for the black back plate and 3 Allen key M3 screws for the retaining plate. Right, now then, what's it say? Unscrew the 3 M3 X5 screws from the front, remove the IO bracket. Done. Step 4. Placing the block on the graphics card. Carefully position the water block with the pre-installed standoffs on the graphics card. What? Pre-installed standoffs. I guess that means 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so they're attached to the water block. So firstly, it says draw an X with the thermal compound. Guess that'll do. Okay, so superb. Use the 4 M2.5 times 4A X1 screws and the 2.5 PVC washers. It's got to be those. It's got to be those, isn't it? Let's have a look. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Let's go back to the parts list and just make sure we're getting these ones correct. So we have 2.5 times 4 9 pieces. Okay, so the little silver ones are the 2.5 times 4. Roger. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 nylon washers. Correct. We've got 2.5 times 7 AX ones, which are the black long ones. And then we've got M3 times 5, 3, which are the short black ones. So let's go back to where we were. So we're using 2.5 times 4 AX ones. Okay, so it is the silver ones, as we first thought. So we were correct in our thinking, so we're going to use 4 of these and 4 nylon washers. Of course they don't fit, so we're going to have to change back to our pH 0. You're most definitely going to need yourselves a electronics toolkit for this. Why doesn't that go on? Anyway. Let's crack on. Okay, so we're not going to over tighten these too much. We'll just tweak them up. They've all got a plastic washer under each screw. Step 6, attaching the in-out bracket. Okay, so it goes like, in fact, just like that. Take the stored screws and I/O bracket after attaching the water block. Attach them to the water block as shown in the picture. Do not use excessive force. 1, 2, 3. It's the smaller black screws that we took off earlier. We're just going to slightly finger tight those up. Okay, so we have the in-out bracket on, and one for the top there it says. Now where the hell was that? Don't know where that's come from. So that's one of the included one. 2.5 times 4. So which one was the 2.5 times 4? That's our silver ones, which we was given 9 of. So we're going to use another one of these. And it doesn't have a nylon washer this time. So we've got, but I'm going to put one on anyway. Let's just make sure. There's no suggestion further on of any more of those nylon washers being used. Okay, so that's all the thermal pads on. All we have left now to do is to put on the back plate and the retaining plate. Everything should be lit up now from this connector here, so we don't need to reattach the fan connectors. We can just relock those lock-in retaining clips down, push this back across. So if we ever do the stock cooler, we'll have to put those back together. I've just got a few of these little black tabs to remove now, and then it's a case of draining my loop, reintroducing it, doing some testing and seeing what the temps are like with this new block on. So there we have, almost completed. I'm going to have to end the video here because I'm running out of storage on my phone, but I hope that has helped you somewhat, or maybe it was just boring you to death. It's probably boring me to death, to be honest with you, if I watched that, but hopefully it's going to help one of you out. So all the best guys, take care, cheers.